For shape 10, I'm going to do the outer rim of this circle with a scroll stitch. I'm going to keep them fairly small. It's a little wave, so I'm going to come over just a little ways. I'm going to do a little stitch on the slant. I'm going to make sure this thread is under my needle and I'm wrapping it around clockwise like this. I want to make sure that that's pretty nice and snug. I don't want it loose. I'm then going to anchor it with my thumb as I pull the thread through. And that creates my first little scroll. I then come back down. I'm going to anchor it with my thumb. And I'm going to take my next little stitch that's slanted under the needle, making sure that's pretty taut, and around as I pull my thread through. And there's my next little scroll. I'm going to keep doing this each time, anchoring the preceding stitch with my thumb. And the reason I do that is because otherwise it can start to pull, and I don't want it to disappear on me. I want to have that scroll. I want to be able to see that scroll. I want to be careful when I'm pulling this thread up that I'm not pulling it so hard that the whole thing is just gone. So that's really the trick, is the tension, how much you're pulling when you pull your thread through in this part. And there's my scroll. I'm going to go all the way around. I'm going ahead and threading my scroll stitch, and like any stitch that I'm threading, I'm going above and then below. And I'm just being really careful that I don't pull this and distort my scroll stitch in any way. So above and below. And above. Below. It just gives it a little added something. I'm making sure that I pull it tight enough so it's not sort of flopping around, but I don't want it so tight that it distorts the scroll stitch itself. Just going to continue going around here. I'm going to end it right here because that's where my next stitch is coming. Okay, so instead of going under, I'm going to go over it. It's going to be the exact opposite. Right? And now that's it. So I'm going to end it by just anchoring my thread down. And there it is. That's my double threaded scroll stitch. All right, so I have drawn, I drew a 1-inch circle, but it should have been a 1 1/4 because it's too small. So I'm kind of using the line as just a guide to go in from that. And I'm doing my cable chain, and I'm going counterclockwise. I'm holding my needle, and I pull that thread around doing a full loop. I then go back down into very close to where the thread is emerging. I take a little stitch. I'm keeping these fairly small, not too small, but and then I pull my stitch through. So again, I hold my thread, I put my needle in front, I wrap it around a full rotation. I'm going to go back down very close to where I'm emerging, and then I'm going to come out and I'm going to pull my thread in front of that needle for that chain. So the wrapping around is the cable part, and the last part is the chain part. I'm going to keep going around. So again, I can hold this, put my needle in front, do a full rotation around, put my needle very close to where I'm coming out, and then take a little stitch about like that. I'm going to pull that thread in front, and I'm going to pull my thread through, creating, right, the wrap is creating that cable, and then I do my chain. Now when I get to the end, I'm going to just go right in to where I'm meeting up so I have my little link here, and I'm going to go right in because I started with the knotted part, the cable part of the chain. So I'm going to end with the chain part, and I can just tweak this a little so that it is even. And there it is. That's my cable chain going around. This is where I'm going to go with my 2 parallel lines for the center of my cast-on Boya rose. I'm using my denim silken pearl. I'm coming up with my needle, and I'm going to go right back down and come up again. And this is where I'm going to do a cast-on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think I need more than 5, so I'm going to go ahead, pull this through, and I'm going to do my second little cast-on Boya right next to it. So they run parallel to each other. And that's going to be my center of my cast-on Boya rose. Again, I'm going to come right in here, come right out, and do my 5 cast-ons. And there it is. Now, I'm going to end my thread here because I'm going to do the rest of the rose in a lighter color. I'm just doing the center in the denim, and I'm doing the rest of the rose in this one, which is my Pearled Blues Silken Pearl. Okay. So when I start to do the petals, I tend to come up sort of at the, 11 o'clock? I'm going to come around so that I'm right at about the 3 o'clock area. I don't want to go full halfway. I want to go just in from halfway. And I'm going to come with my needle right up to where my thread is emerging. And then I'm going to start my cast-ons. In the beginning, I'm not going to have that many cast-ons. So let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8. And as I go out from the petals, going wider and wider, I'll increase how many cast-ons I do. I probably could have done one more, but all right, 8. Now for my next cast on, I'm going to come right in from where this ended. So do you see where my needle's coming out? Right there. And I'm going to go to maybe this position here. And I want to come very close to where my thread is originating from. So again, I'm going to take my thread, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's probably good. I always wrap my thread around this way to ensure that my ridges stay out and don't turn in. It's just a little trick that I discovered once as I was trying to figure out why mine were twisting on me, and that seemed to make all the difference. Okay, so I'm going to anchor that, and I'm going to come right back out just in from where this one ends so that they're overlapping. And this one I think I'll probably do 12. And I'll go to here. So 8, 10, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, another thing that you want to keep in mind is that this is with my silk and pearl. Obviously, if you were doing an 8-weight thread, you would want to do more. If it was a 5-weight thread, you might decide to do a bit less. It just depends on the thread that you're using. So you really just need to pay attention to that. You can't, there is no real formula that's going to work for all threads, you know. It's going to depend on the thread weight and the kind of thread that you're using. So I'm going to go right in here, and I'm going to go right out to here, and see how many. So this is 14. That seems reasonable. I'm going to anchor that. And that's my first round. I'm going to do a couple rounds of this. All right, I'm doing my second round now. I'm doing 16 on this one. I need my pliers. And I'm going to end it here. And now I'm going to come up just inside this one. And I'm going to go around to just inside this one. So it's a little less than halfway. So that's 18. Again, I'm going to push my thread around like that, pull it through, and I'm going to have to start a new thread because I'm pretty much done with this one. I'm going to attach a new thread and I'm going to do one more. This is my final cast on. It's the only one I'm doing of the third round. So this was 22 cast ons, and now I'm going to do 24, and that's going to be it. Now it is going to get a little untwisted because that is the nature of the silk and pearl to get that way, but I'm going to bury that thread in here, and that's it. That's my rose. So I decided that I needed something else here. And the reason was this. This piece, without anything like this t-shirt added, looked like it came from another project. It needed something a little organic or rough to make it part of a bigger piece. So I went ahead and I cut little strips of my t-shirt, and the part of the t-shirt that I'm cutting is, the greens, the blues, so I'm going to add like a little piece here of this kind of green blue, and I'm going to add this strip now. And the way I'm doing it is as I'm coming in under this bouillon rose as close as I can, I'm then putting my needle through the bottom of the t-shirt strip. I'll pull this through. I'm using my House of Embroidery. This is the 71B that I used for my pistol stitches. I'm doing the same. I'm not going to take the pistol stitches out. I'm going to leave them because I figure this is going to curl up. I'm doing a 1 wrap French knot to adhere the tip of this t-shirt right into the bottom. And then I'm using my pliers to pull the thread through. And I'm going to go around and do this with each one of these where there's a pistol stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. And as I said, I'm leaving my pistol stitch underneath because I figure these are going to do whatever they do. So I'm just going around. I'm pushing that cast on bouillon rose petal as far away as I can. And then I'm coming in with my needle. I'm taking my t-shirt, cutting a little strip here. Piercing that needle through. If it's too long, I'm going to clip it. Pull the thread through. I'm going to do my 1 wrap French knot, and I'm going to adhere it right under that petal. The knots aren't going to necessarily show. And I'm just going to keep going around doing this with all the remaining petals. I've drawn my 7/8 of an inch chalk line, chalk circle around my wool shape, and I'm going to come up. For the Van Dyke stitch, I want to keep this leg right up to the edge of the circle, right? And I want my braid to go right along the line of that edge, so just in from the edge a little bit. So that's where I'm going to pull it. And now I'm going to go across to here, and I'm going to come back down a little ways down, knowing that my inner legs are going to be closer together than my outer. And this is going to make a little cross right here. And now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through this part and then through this upper part, and that's going to be my little braid, right? And now I'm going to take my next leg right to the chalk line, and I'm going to come out a little lower down. And again, I'm going to take my needle and push it through for my braid. Go back across and go back down a little bit. And that's my braid. I'm putting right on the edge. And now I go across to that chalk line and down. And And there's my little braid. And I'm going to go across and down. And what this does is it makes it it's kind of a lopsided Van Dyke in that the legs, instead of being even, are completely one-sided. Ensuring that my braid comes right along the edge. I'm going to keep doing this all the way around, but that's how it's going to look. And I'm going to go all the way around using this chalk line as my guide for where my inner legs are going to go. And my outer legs are just going to travel right along the edge of the wool. So here I am. I have to end my thread now because I'm running out, and I'm going to start a new one. So I'm going to anchor this down instead of coming to the other side. I'm going to make my knot, and then I'm going to come up right where I would have come up before, which is down here. And I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so I'm going to come up now on the other side. This is my new length of thread, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my V, my little braid in the back, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going all the way around. And I just want to, this kind of got a little wacky, so I'm just going to try to correct it by going back around. But I'm also not going to worry too much. So a couple of things I'm thinking about. I don't know if you've been aware, but I have been trying to use every stitch that I know of in this piece, and there are a couple that I haven't done, like the coral stitch, herringbone, the ladder stitch, the loop stitch, square chain, the thorn stitch. And so I'm trying, and I only have 5, including this is 6 shapes left, and so I may abandon trying to do all the rest and just think about what will look good. Now, the other thing that's a challenge is that this is a straight circle. And while some of these others have been circles, I've managed to do something sort of a little bit different. This one was starting to look very kind of traditional or more typical. And I thought, well, we need to break it up. So I added the t-shirt to give it a little edge. This one, I'm not sure what to do, so I'll think about that. So I've done the ladder stitch all the way around where my shape has been whip stitched down, stuffed and whip stitched down. And then using that edge, that's where I've used the edge of the ladder stitch, and the other edge is at the outer edge of the wool shape itself. But right now, I am running out of thread, so I'm going to go ahead and end my thread. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to go first in here, and then I go into this one. I leave it a little bit loose. I give myself a little slackness. And then I go down into here, and instead of coming out, on the other side, I'm just going to anchor my thread, and I'm going to attach a new one. So I have my new thread attached, and I'm going to come out as though I hadn't ended the other one. So I want to come out right here. I go ahead and I start doing my braid again by putting my needle underneath. And underneath this one. And now I have my little rung, right? Now I'm going to go back down. I'm going to come up. Back into my little braid. My other braid, my little rung, go back down. I'm coming up for my final stitch here. Doing my little braid on this side. And doing my braid over here. I'm going to come back. I'm going to go up into this one. This will be my final one. I'm going to go up into there. And then I'm going to, instead of coming across and doing another one here, I'm just going to anchor my thread back down. Right there. So it's pretty good. I mean, I can see here, but that's because I'm really looking for it. I think if you just sort of see it, and once we do more work in here, we're not going to see that at all. All Alright, so I'm using my House of Embroidery 62B. I've got a tapestry needle. I'm just threading this through, going over 2, under 2, over 2. And now I'm going to my second round, and I'm just weaving, but I'm taking one that was over and one that was under, and I'm going over both so that it's just a little different. It really depended on the stitches. Had my stitches been even, I would be going under, both that had been gone over on the first round. But because they're not even an even number of rungs, I'm doing this. And whatever, do it however you like. The point is to just give a little accent of a different color in here. So I'm good. This is my third round. I won't do more than 3. All right, so here I am doing my shepherd silk. I've marked my center, and it's right there. And I'm doing the bottom portion of the tête de boeuf. With the chain portion going inward. And then coming back out. And then at the end, I can't get through straight down through all those stuffings, so I'm going at an angle and I'm coming out over here. And it doesn't really matter, you know, whatever way you can do it. I'm going to think about this and see what else I'm going to do here. We're not finished yet. I need to go a little Mad Max, I think, on this one. We'll see. This is my hand-dyed cheesecloth. I've twisted it up like this, and I'm laying it around the outer edge like so. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to cut off the length. I'm just leaving a whole long strip. Once I couch it and it meets, then I'm going to cut off the length. But until then, I'm just going to go ahead and start couching it with my silk and pearl denim. Holding that down, making sure this comes through to the other side. I'm going to go around and couch the whole thing that way. I'm going to make sure that this continues to twist as I couch. I'm couching it about, what, 1/4 of an inch apart, something like that. I'm going to go around the whole thing, and I'll show you how I'm going to end it. Alright, so I have gone all the way around, and I'm just going to clip it off right there.